Is Arsenal cursed?
That is the question that we are currently facing.
Okay, I might use that clickbait, so forgive me if I do on this video. Because last video, I think I titled it something, or the thumbnail said something about canceling the World Cup. That was more, hyperbole or unjust. It wasn't, I didn't really think that. I thought it was just kind of a clickbait. A couple people thought Cup should be canceled because of all the injuries, but I definitely don't think that. So I definitely think it should go on. It's just going to be different. And a couple people left really good comments last video about it's going to feel different. I mean, we talked about that last video, but it will feel definitely different. Mm-hmm. But how's it going, everyone? We're back. And this story, part of the title is going to be because of the story that we're going to talk about today. Because when I saw this story, I could not believe it.
You can't make this up.
I know.
Same thing happened to us. Not at a plane, but in a car.
A little bit.
What the heck?
So we're going to talk about the story about the Arsenal plane catching fire in a second. Timestamps down below, like always. But first of all, let's talk about why they were in Wolfsburg, why they were in Germany. Because they're playing the Champions League. And, I haven't been following it too close, but what's great about the Champions League games, they're all on YouTube.
Yeah, they're all on the YouTube channel, the DAZN, UEFA's Women's Champions League.
Yeah, so that is really nice. And that channel and that way they broadcast it is so nice. Such great camera angles, so clear. So which is really nice for people like us or people anywhere to be able to easily click on that, and they keep the games up. So it's always on YouTube, which is really nice. Arsenal played Wolfsburg in the semifinals, and this is leg 1. And they were playing it in Germany. And like we've talked about, that's one of the goals for any footballer is to win Champions League, to do well in Champions League. That's one of the main goals as a professional footballer. Arsenal have been playing well. And also, we talk about how they've been cursed, obviously not having Viv, not having Beth, now not having Leah, also not having Kim Little, just picked up an injury. They have so many key players out.
Ugh, yeah, that's a lot.
But they have such a deep bench. It's nice to see, even if those players are out, they're okay. They're good. They're in good hands.
Still a good team, yeah.
So they played Wolfsburg this is Sunday. We're not going to really talk about the game, but this is kind of the opposite of being cursed, because this game, Sarah and I really didn't watch it, but I did see the highlights. This game was wild because Arsenal were down 2-0, Sarah. They were down 2-0 against Wolfsburg. And I think a lot of people thought the game was pretty much
over at that point.
I think a lot of people, not Arsenal fans, I will say, but a lot of people thought it's going to be hard to come back. Even though Wolfsburg has their own challenges, their injuries. Alex Pop has been injured. So, are not full strength either. But, it was kind of a wild game. 18th minute, Wolfsburg scored. Then in the 23rd minute, it was kind of a backline kerfuffle, should you say. Wolfsburg scored again. So 2-0 in the first half. I think a lot of people thought that was over. Then in the 44th minute, so all happened in the first half. Raffaele scored a beautiful goal, and it was going into halftime. It was 2-1. So you feeling pretty good about that, right?
Yeah, you can still come back.
Yeah, and then in the 68th minute, Blackstenius scored, and that was the end score. It was 2-2, but they came back from 2-0 against Wolfsburg. Nice. So the funny part is when I say is Arsenal cursed, this is the opposite, because this was a very good result to go into Wolfsburg.
Yeah,
to play.
Could have ended 2-0.
Right. So that was the first leg. Now it's in Arsenal's hands. They're going to be playing at the Emirates on May 1st for the second leg of the Champions League semifinal. So I think they have a pretty good chance of winning and succeeding, because they're it's theirs to lose now. When you're at home, the pressure's a little bit, you have the support of the fans there.
Oh yeah, definitely. The crowd is on your side.
So any Arsenal fan, I'm sure, saw that and was pumped. But one of the things that happened after the match, scary. That's all you can say. Scary. Long story short, their plane went up in flames.
I saw on Twitter that their plane went up in flames.
Is that the first time you saw it on Twitter? Yeah. And that's something that is so scary when you even think about it. At that point, we knew no one was hurt, so we'd already known that. But when you saw the visual and you saw that headline, you thought,
yes, I had flashbacks to when our car went up in flames. Similar situation. There was no bird involved. No. So yeah, that's insane. I know a lot of weird things happen with planes, and a lot of wild stories around planes, but you don't think this is ever really going to happen until it happens to you.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, so we're going to read from this article that just kind of explains what happened, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it.
Arsenal women evacuated after plane bursts into flames on runway. The side were returning from Germany after earning a 2-2 draw in the first leg of their Champions League semifinal against Wolfsburg. Arsenal women's team were forced to evacuate their plane after it dramatically caught fire on the runway in Wolfsburg on Sunday night. The team were traveling back from their Champions League semi-final against Wolfsburg via a chartered flight when a bird is understood to have flown into the left engine during takeoff at Braunschweig Wolfsburg Airport. Sorry if I said that wrong. It caused a loud bang and a fire to break out, forcing takeoff to be abandoned, and the squad and support staff were evacuated onto a coach on the runway. Thankfully, no one was injured in the incident, and after spending the night in a hotel locally, the team instead flew safely back to London on Monday. Our aircraft developed a technical issue prior to takeoff in Germany on Sunday evening, an Arsenal club statement read. As a result, we remained in Wolfsburg overnight on Sunday before flying back to England on Monday afternoon. We would like to thank the staff on board the aircraft and on the ground at the airport for their assistance. The scary scenes followed a whirlwind week for Arsenal, full of injury woes. In the last 7 days, the team have lost Captain Kim Little and England captain Leah Williamson to season-ending injuries and suffered a tough defeat to Women's Super League title rivals Manchester United that all but ended their chances of winning the league. But somehow they managed to keep their Champions League hopes alive on Sunday afternoon, recovering from a 2-goal deficit against their German opponents to draw 2-2 thanks to goal from Raffaele Souza and Stina Blackstenius. The second leg will be played at the Emirates on Monday, where a crowd of nearly 50,000 are expected. Arsenal are aiming to reach their first Champions League final since they lifted the trophy in 2007.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we know, and it kind of pointed out, it kind of mapped out. Everything was going pretty bad until this game the other day.
Yeah.
Although they didn't win, they still have the possibility to advance to the finals, which, I mean, all those kind of things that weren't going their way, this could be a positive from so many negatives.
Yeah.
But look, it said right there, it said a bird is said to have flown into the engine. And, you know, that's really scary because it's like there's always birds in the air. You just never know if one is that's going to happen, because we know although it's not common, it does happen.
Some birds have pretty bad radar too.
Yeah, they do. They really do. So we're going to read a little bit from the article. It says, what happens when a bird strikes a plane?
Bird strikes can pose a considerable safety risk and can even cause death, although this is rare. It has been estimated that only one fatality occurs due to every billion flight hours. The most common instances of bird strikes are when they either fly into the windscreen or get sucked into the jet. The latter can cause engines to fail and, as a result, to set on fire. The biggest risk is when birds fly into the engine. It's believed that 90% of bird strikes occur when a plane is landing, taking off, or when it is at a low altitude. The amount of damage done to the aircraft depends on the size, weight, and speed of the bird and to the aircraft itself, according to simpleflying.com. Bird strikes remain relatively uncommon but do generate headlines when they happen. The famous landing of a U.S. Airways flight on the Hudson by Chesley Sullenberger came after the plane flew into the flock of birds shortly after they took off from LaGuardia Airport in New York.
Right. And you remember that they made a movie about it, Sully, with Tom Hanks, and how they had to land the plane on the river.
Yeah,
and that was
dramatic.
Yeah, that was all from I think they hit multiple birds in that incident. But I mean, that's one of the first times I had ever heard of this happening.
Yeah, I mean, thank God they were on the runway still,
yeah,
not like in the air, and they had to make like an emergency landing somewhere, because that would be freaking scary.
Because
I'm glad that didn't happen.
Exactly. And you think about, they always say flying is the safest form of travel. That's what they say. Statistically speaking, flying is the safest form of travel.
I'm starting to think not.
I think it still is when you talk about statistics. But I always say if there only has to go one thing wrong and the plane goes down and you don't have, and it's scary, basically. Being in a plane is scary. You're up suspended in the air from propulsion. I mean, it's just scary when you think about flying.
This is why I don't fly.
A lot of people don't. No. A lot of famous celebrities do not fly. Like I know Whoopi Goldberg, she does not fly.
Oh my God, how do they get around?
I think she gets in a bus, like cross-country bus. It is very unsettling. I mean, I've been in planes before where it kind of shakes and you just kind of look around. And
turbulence.
Yeah. So, luckily all the Arsenal players and staff and everyone was safe. And
yeah, glad that everyone is okay.
Yes, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like that's the most important part. It did kind of mess up their travel plans a little, but that's okay.
I mean, it probably shook everybody.
Yeah.
Especially hearing like a loud pop sound like that, or whatever kind of sound, like you think something hit the plane,
right?
Or so the plane fell apart, or I don't know what you're thinking. But
because if you look at this graphic,
wild.
Apparently, this is the picture from the actual plane, and I mean that's very substantial. The amount of fire that's there.
Yeah, it's no little fire.
And
it's to think a bird did that.
I know.
Like, do they have plane insurance?
I know. It's very scary because that's pretty major.
I mean, it made headlines.
It did, absolutely. But yeah, so is Arsenal cursed? That was our question, because so many injuries and then the plane catching fire. I mean, what more can they deal with? Them going to the Champions League final and then winning it will obviously make up for everything wild that has happened this season. But that is what is next. And then we'll read a little bit from this other article. But
against all odds, the English team will now head into the reverse fixture at the Emirates reinvigorated and truly believing that they can reach the Women's Champions League final after this very creditable 2-2 draw away against Wolfsburg. We have 3 values as a team. We put the team first, always play at 100%, and to be fearless. Today, we lived all 3 of those values. I am beyond proud to see that that response from the players to going 2-0 down, because it shows real resilience, real bravery on the ball, and I thought they represented Arsenal excellently today, Edival said. I'm really proud of how we've been handling this week and this year with a lot of players injured, Blackstenius said. I feel like all the injuries has made us even stronger. I would say that we are stronger now than we were a year ago. We really want them, the injured players, to be on the pitch, but that's not the case now. It's like we play for them, and we want to achieve things together. We have them in our minds. They are still with us.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. They're the players who aren't injured, who are playing, they're saying we're doing this for everyone, the players that are injured, the players who aren't injured, for the fans. I mean, they're doing it for everyone, and they're playing, I'm so rooting for Arsenal to, all this bad, have something good come from it.
Yeah, definitely.
But what a week.
You could say Arsenal had a very eventful week.
Yes, I mean, that's an understatement.
Yeah.
Quite an understatement. Obviously, so happy that they are safe, and that is the most important part. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if I hope it doesn't give any of the players kind of flying nervousness either, because that's, scary. What does everyone think? Who watched the Wolfsburg game on Sunday? Who's going to watch the game on the 1st? And 50,000 people are going to be at the Emirates. Wow. It's going to be a wild, wild game. And what does everyone think? Did you guys see the movie Sully? It was big in America. I don't know if it was big overseas, but
I think so. I think it was big worldwide.
Yeah, that movie, and it
Tom Hanks
showed you a lot about the aviation, how they have the captains really only have seconds to deal with emergencies like that. Even if you're still on the runway, you know what I mean? You have seconds to deal with it. What does everyone think? Questions, comments down below. We will talk to you guys soon, and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.